motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support?
Motion by Kevin, support from Anna. All in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say the same. Motion to approve the agenda carries as presented. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support?
Motion from Kevin, support by Anna. All in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say the same. Consent agenda is approved as presented. And we have our educational highlights. Our summer camp director, Lindsay Olson. As you get going, Lindsay, please use the microphone as you can, please. Thanks.
All right, I think this is the remote. Help me with the TV. Oh, the other one. All right. Thank you. So I am Lindsay Olson, and I was the summer school coordinator this year for our summer camp. And we have a slideshow that we put together of our daily events and what we did as a summer school. So we had a lot of fun this summer. We had about 150 students who came, and about 32 staff members and about 13 middle school and high school interns who also helped us. We had 3 days a week of summer camp in the morning, and they came, and we had a lot of fun. We had a weekly theme throughout the summer, and we focused in on things like belonging and friendship and kindness. And our day always began with an opening campfire, and the students would be in a grade level bunk, we would call them, and we would, during that time, we'd all be in the cafeteria, and we would focus on that weekly theme, and then our AMP teachers, which I'll talk about in a second, would then really highlight that during their rotation with the students. And during that time, we had staff members get up and either do an activity, or they would give a story, or really tie in how the students can apply that theme to their day at camp or their outside world. At that point, then the kids would go off into their world, I'd say, and they would go off into an ELA rotation, a math rotation, and then an AMP rotation, like a specials rotation, art, music, and PE rotation. And before we started camp, there was a group of us that looked through the iReady data, and we put the students into small groups for targeted instruction that would probably 4 to 8 students in each of the classrooms, so that teacher could be almost like an interventionist for the summer, where they would focus in on a targeted skill that group of students needed. And so each student got targeted instruction in their math and in their ELA, and then they would rotate off into an AMP rotation, and they'd have art one day, music another day, and PE the other day. Our interns were able to support in the larger groups that they would have, and we had support staff and as well as teaching staff that would make sure that those students were showing their growth. We were able to progress monitor their growth as well with those resources that we're providing for the staff members and the students. We'd end our day doing, is it not rotating? Oh, okay. Here. I think we should see the fun pictures, huh? I'll move a little faster through them. So we'd end our day in a closing bunk time, and we would wrap up our day, reflect on what the students did throughout their time at camp, and then off they'd go, and we'd see them the next day. So that is our camp, and I'm sorry that the pictures didn't come up a little faster, but we had a staff member who enjoyed taking lots of photos, so we were able to capture a lot of the fun that the students had. We were able to incorporate a reward system this summer where the students would get camp tickets if they did really good choices and they were able to show their learning or just being kind to other students. And at the end of the camp on Thursdays, they would go to the reward store and they would buy some exciting toys that they got or different items we'd bring in from the area. So that was our camp. The duration of, yeah. Yeah, so we started June 10th and we went to August 10th. We took a week off for 4th of July, and it was 3 days a week in the mornings for about 3.5 hours. This summer, it was open to anyone that would like to come, and so we looked at any student who signed up their iReady data, and so even if they were above grade level, they were placed into a group where we extended their learning and almost did like a STEM activity or something that would relate to them to keep growing in that skill, so they weren't staying stagnant over the summer. And then if they were on grade level, we gave them things that they could develop there, and if they were below, we gave them those targeted instructions that really grew. Campers or the interns? Yeah, we do. We had a really good repeat back with kids that came back from middle schoolers. So that we had some 6th graders all the way up to recent graduates from the high school, and there was 13 of them, and they worked so hard, and they came and with so much energy, and I'd be like, you guys, it's okay, you can have a day off. No, we love coming. Like, they got so much joy out of it. So it was really fun to use those high schools and those middle schoolers and just see them grow. And that's been fun for us as staff members to see them when they were timid 7th graders, and now they're leading the interns.
So, I don't know if this is a question for Garth. So, I mean, is there much money is this something we can continuously do? Or is this some COVID money that went into this, or?
Well, it's grant funded,
Okay, it is.
so we won't know about next summer yet, do we?
Not 100%, but we should be okay next summer.
This looks awesome. I'm like, I can't believe how many kids were there.
Yeah, yep, and every day these kids would come just so excited about it, and they're learning math and reading, and they could, you didn't hear too many of them complaining. They were having a lot of fun. We are also able to, which we hope to next year, to bring in more people. We were able to have the performers from Broadway Frozen, 3 performers come and talk to our students. It happened to be the week of curiosity, and so we gave the charge to the students to come up with questions to ask the performers about their daily life, because they didn't come in costume. They can't, for Disney purposes, couldn't come as their character, but they came as performers. And it was really fun. Disney gave us specific questions to ask, and they were okay, but our students came up with the best questions. Like, we learned how the performers ate and where did they live and how their day-to-day went, and all the students just really enjoyed that. So I'm hoping next year we can bring in more of those kind of activities, because it really did make it, the whole week, the staff and the students really focused in on Curiosity and Frozen and really developing that.
You did an awesome job. This is for preparation for you coming into administration.
Yeah. All right. I'm all set. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have public comments. First and last on the list, Troy Lampin.
There we go.
14 days ago, I stood here and I asked that this board begin the process of identifying areas that a changed county health department could impact our district both in physical and mental health. 10 days ago, my cousin's family lost their 14-year-old son to suicide. By all outward appearances, this was not something that should have happened. Raised in a loving two-parent household, active in school and church, regularly spending time with his grandfather, a retired pastor, and a friend to his grandson. Although not a part of our immediate community, very representative of it and theirs nearby. Today, I stand before you with a still ongoing budget battle that directly impacts county health all the way down to the household level. Mental health and physical health, both at the community and district level, are two distinct areas that while they are separate, they are not pieces standing alone on their own. Rather, they are like patches in a quilt. On their own, they can be useful, but the threads that are interwoven between them on all sides create something greater. One can and will affect the other, and when those threads fail, so does the entire process. Again, I state, a not insignificant portion of suicides in West Michigan are children ages 14 to 18. Many health factors can and do play into that. So I ask again, leverage the experts on your staff. Identify those areas that could be of impact to our district, no matter how trivial it may seem. Changes to our community and our health can and will have an impact. What may be trivial to one can be life-shattering to another. Be proactive in this measurement so that this district can better be equipped to serve our community should those needs arise. Please do not give me your I'm sorries. I don't need them. Rather, give this issue the respect and meaningful action that it deserves, free from political rhetoric. And finally, please keep us, the community, informed as you do along in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment? You can approach. Okay. Next on the list, we have our committee reports, our ad hoc SEAB. No updates. And our superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. Turn that on. Wouldn't want anybody to miss this at home. So you see some dates there. Our next work session is on the 25th. Then on the curriculum director update, for those of you who are not aware, our curriculum director, Mindy Westra, is leaving. Her last day is on Friday. She's accepted another position, and we wish her well. I wanted to let the board know that we did get that position posted last week, and the posting closes on Sunday the 17th. We so far have about 8 applicants, and for those of you who are always curious, I'm anticipating that we may have 1 or 2 internal candidates as well. Once that posting closes, I'll get a committee, we'll review the applicants, and then we will set up interviews. Just to let the board know, for the time between Mindy's departure and we get somebody in place, most of the curriculum work will come to me, will flow through my office. However, our principals are very gifted at dealing with curriculum issues. We have 2 outstanding academic coaches, Beth Voss and Lauren Gillisey, and so I'm really confident that they will help to move the process forward as well. But the main questions regarding curriculum, salespeople call, or any of those types of things, dealing with our vendors or potential professional development, will go through my office. Mindy already had the September 29th professional development all planned out and all organized, so we're all set for that day on the 29th. So things will continue to go smoothly, hopefully, until we get someone in place.
Garth, on that,
Yep.
if I may.
Please.
Do you anticipate any of the grants and applying for any of those in that meantime?
I don't think so. I think those are typically done either before school starts or more towards the end of the year. We could see some grant opportunities pop up, but typically not. This isn't the season for that. Usually they're done much earlier so that you can budget for them going into the school year.
And you're gonna be watching for those opportunities
Oh, yeah.
to jump on those. That's falling on your desk also.
Yeah, that's okay. I like looking for those kinds of opportunities, so
Okay.
we'll find them. Yep. Well, we'll typically have building
Liz,
principals.
could you turn on the mic and repeat that question?
I wanted to make sure it didn't make any noises. I just asked him who's on the committee or how he makes that decision for the hiring committee.
Yep, well, we will for sure have our, building principals involved. I typically anticipate 2 rounds of interviews, so I'll have a couple of building principals in the first round. I'll have, we have 2 different academic coaches, as I mentioned, so I'll probably ask one to be in the first round, one to be in the second round. We'll have department chairs, usually teachers, who will be in on that as well. And then I may have 1 or 2 central office staff, because they'll be working with them every day. But, yeah, I set it up so that the 2 rounds have 2 different interview teams, and that way you get a wider group of people who've had a chance to see the candidates.
Garth, did you mention when that will be taking place?
No, we haven't. So the posting ends on the 17th, and then it's a matter of when we get those reviewed. I would say we'll probably try to interview the last week in September for the first round of interviews. And then the second round would either be, if we can do it like the first, on the Monday or Tuesday, then you might have a second round later in that week. Otherwise, we'll have it at the beginning of the next week.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Preschool update. So we have 90 GSRP students, which is the maximum number you can have in the 5 classrooms that we have going. So 3 GSRP classrooms at the ECC, 2 GSRP classrooms over at Evergreen because we had no more space at the ECC. We already have, last I heard, somewhere between 4 and 6 students on a waiting list to get into another GSRP classroom. And so I've had conversations with Mr. Smolin and with Don Kukuk, who's our coordinator for preschool, and also with Mr. Ball, who I see is here this evening, and Gary, about facilities, kind of prepping for, in case we get to a point where we need a 6th GSRP classroom. So that would be, we would double our GSRP in 1 year. That would be pretty incredible growth. The one thing we are doing, though, as we waitlist parents is we are maxed out on transportation. I mean, it's just, I don't know how we would get anybody else in there. So as we put people on the wait list, we let them know that if this opportunity arises for a 6th classroom for GSRP, those students would need to be brought to school and picked up by their parents. Now, we do have before and after school care, so they could drop them off at 7 o'clock and pick them up at 5 o'clock. So we'd still have that service available for them, but we just wouldn't be able to transport those kids because our buses are just maxed out. But that's pretty incredible growth, and I don't know if it's, most of you probably have heard by now that the Little Mittens daycare closed last week, and that's put a lot of stress on our families. We've increased the capacity of our Good Time Friends to max it out. Our wraparound program is nearing capacity. We're doing everything we can to accommodate as many of the Allendale families as we can, but our capacity is kind of limited too because of licensing rules, things like that. So we will continue to try to expand to meet folks' needs, but.
That was gonna be my question. With us expanding those, do we have the before and after school program available? Is it already maxed out if we open up this class?
Yeah, we're coordinating those because there's still room in the wraparound program, which the GSRP kids would go to. There's not room in Good Time Friends. There's a wait list for that as well. And again, we're maxed out on what our licensing capacity and staffing capacity are. But the wraparound program is a great question. Does have some available space. So if we went to that 6th classroom, we could accommodate them in the wraparound. Yeah, that just continues to grow. And I don't have any other today. So I'm all set.
We have our board comments. Start with you, Liz.
No comment.
Kevin?
No, not much. much, but I wanted to, as Corey started out with the moment of silence, I just wanted to say thank you to our first responders in our community. And we have an awesome police officer that is on staff, but is part of the school district, and he does a fantastic job of bringing kids and dealing with situations as they arise, and I just want to say thanks to all them in this public forum, and that's all I got.
Thank you.
No comment.
Josh?
I do not have any comments.
I have no comment also. I was thinking about saying something about Lindsay, but that turnout that you have there is just phenomenal, and I see it growing every year, so what you're doing is working, word is spreading, so thank you. Thank for all you're doing and rallying the parents and the kids and the volunteers, the interns as you call them. That's cool that they want to be there. All right, next on the list is our action items. It's the selection of an architect construction manager for bond planning. Garth, could you give us some background on that?
Do you want to do the motion and then?
Oh, yeah, we can do that and then have the discussion, yeah. Can I have a motion to approve the architect construction manager for bond planning?
I make a motion to approve contracting Triangle Incorporated as our construction management consultant for the pre-bonding process.
I have a second?
Support.
Okay, so, Mr. Torno and I met with, 3 architectural firms last week, and, we met with 2 construction management companies, and I also called and had a lengthy conversation with, Beckering, which has been our construction management company for other, bond projects. After interviewing them, we felt really comfortable with Triangle. Triangle is currently working with Jennison Schools, for example. They are working with West Ottawa. Triangle has also done work in Mona Shores, Wayland, Cedar Springs, Schoolcraft, Galesburg, Augusta, Mansalona, Centerville, and Belding. Just felt like they're the right-sized firm, and they also had a really, I thought, dynamic plan for the pre-bond process. And again, just want to emphasize that we would be reaching an agreement with them to help us through the pre-bond process, but not committing to them as our construction manager should the bond pass. Now, obviously, our hope would be that, they would submit a bid, but so would others. I mean, that's pretty typical. But just I want to be clear that this is who's going to help us try to get the bond to the finish line. And you need an architect and a construction management company, and so I'm recommending Triangle. I spoke with the superintendent from Jennison and the superintendent from Hamilton. I forgot Hamilton's using them. And both just spoke glowingly about Triangle, about how supportive they were and how helpful they've been, and how much they've enjoyed the collaboration. And so that's why I'm recommending that we use Triangle for this. And again, they have a really solid plan. I sent you their timeline. I don't know if you got that. I sent that separately, of what it would look like, what would happen as we go through to make sure we hit the deadline for August. I know August seems like it's far away, but we have to remember that the bond language has to be in about 3 months before the election date, because absentee ballots go out like 88 days before the election. So it'll happen kind of fast, but I'm pretty confident that we can get it done before then. On the architectural firm side, of the 3 candidates that we spoke with, we felt pretty good about Pure. Now, Pure is a new company. They've only been around since 2020. However, the architects themselves are not new to the business. Many of them have 10 years or more of experience with other architectural firms. They just went out on their own to create this new new company. It's nice, they're based out of Grand Rapids, so they're local. The only reason I didn't bring them forward to this meeting is because they are new, and so they're working with Triangle on East Grand Rapids bond, which is a $160 million bond. So East Grand Rapids is trusting Pure with that large bond. They're also working with, I'm sorry, it's not Schoolcraft. I'm losing my, they have another one they're going for. It's like an $80 million bond. They're doing work in Muskegon. So Pure has been used by schools in the area for their work, but they just didn't have a body of work for us to really in one day get a good sense of their philosophy. And so I spoke with their president and asked if he'd be willing to come out and meet with Mr. Torno and I again over the next week or so we could take them around the campuses, show them kind of what, you know, the areas that we think might need a look and kind of get their vision for what that might be. The reason I think we have an opportunity to take some time here is because if we do decide to go with Triangle tonight, they can start the things that need to begin right now. Like we want to do a facilities assessment, that should be done. Well, Triangle can get that underway. We want to start setting up some, like a Facebook page and some communication tools and some of those types of things. We want to start setting up meetings with our stakeholder groups. Those are all things that Triangle has the capacity to help us with. And so I think we can, if we can get started with Triangle right now, I think this gives us an opportunity to really vet out Pure and make sure that we feel like this is the right fit for us. We did look at some other companies too, and Kevin shared a couple with me, and I noticed there were ones on there. Some of the other companies we looked at for different reasons, some of them are deeply involved in some really major projects. One of them that I've heard good things about just got involved with like a $400 million bond project over on the east side of the state. And I just worry about that personal service for us. I want to make sure that whoever we work with, which is one of the nice things about Pure, being the size that they are and being so local, I think we would get good personal service from them. So that's nice. But that's what I'm recommending, is that we sign on with Triangle to be the construction manager consultant through pre-bonding, and then Mr. Torno and I will vet out Pure a little bit more and hopefully bring them to the board in October to join us on the architectural side.
I have a question on that. So East Grand Rapids, they had Pure do the pre-bonding stuff,
They did,
and then Triangle is doing the construction end.
yes.
Is that, okay,
Yep,
I just
yep.
wanted to
So,
clarify.
so Pure is the architect in East Grand Rapids, and Triangle is the construction manager for pre-bonding. They haven't passed their bond yet. It's like a $160 million bond, and they're doing it in phases. So they're gonna so it's pretty in-depth and comprehensive. So yeah, they're working with them there. And then Pure is working with Triangle on a project in Muskegon schools right now too, so.
When you talk about the pre-bond process and the needs for our facilities during those bonds and things, our voters will be voting on these things. Will there be anything going out to the community to talk about, and who's going to be conducting those things of what to be on the bond, what shouldn't be on the bond, and those types of surveys that get
Sure.
sent out?
So that's one of why you do your facility assessment. So when you do your facility assessment, that usually identifies your biggest needs. So when they do the facility assessment, they say, wow, do you know you don't have any empty classrooms in this building? Yeah, we know. So that identifies that as a need. And then they might look at some of they'll go up and they'll look at all the roofing. We already know that we have some roof issues. And they might say, well, you might want to address these old flat roofs at the high school. They might look at the locker rooms and the weight room and say, hey, this might be an opportunity for that. So they'll do that facility assessment. And that kind of sets your big ticket items for you. And then once you've established those, then you start to do, like I said, some stakeholder groups, some community forums, and Triangle will help us lead those. when we get a little further down the road and we start to narrow the list and we want to be more specific, that's when your architect starts giving you some conceptualizations of what that expansion might look like at the ECC. Is it more classrooms at the end of the 3 hallways? Is it a whole separate hallway with new classrooms? But they will be here at those community forums. We'll start to have groups, like Triangle will come in and they'll take our coaches and, you know, our athletic director, and they'll go through the athletic facilities, and they'll come in and meet with our teachers in different groups to see what their thoughts are on it. So we go through each stakeholder group individually, and then you have broader community forums. And like I said, usually your first forums, you have a huge list, and then you start to narrow it down based on, because the other thing is at some point, you'll need to decide what the grand scope of the bond is. Is it a $30 million ask? Is it a $40 million ask? Again, we can go for a very significant ask without raising any taxes. This will be a zero increase bond because we've done a nice job paying down over the last 4 years. We've paid off, we've reduced the length of bond by 9 years. And so we've got some room now where we can extend those bonds back out and not cost anybody any additional tax dollars, and still get this done. So you start with the big ticket items through your facility assessment, and then you have your needs, you have your wants, and then you have your wishes, and you just kind of figure out, at some point, once you start narrowing down that list, then you survey your community, and you find out, and I'll throw it out there, tennis courts, because that's been said to me a couple of times. You do a survey, probably hire Epic MRA. They do a very personal survey where they call people on the phone, and they'll give you a percentage. They'll tell you 60% of your families will support you building tennis courts, or 40% is all that will support it. And then you can start to decide from there based on what your community is. And Epic MRA, they're pretty good. They've been doing it a long time, and it's pretty rare that they're off by more than a percentage point or two. Like if they tell you, we think, 59% will pass this bond because they support what you're going for, it's usually somewhere around 58, 59, 60%. They're pretty close once they do that. So that's what the process will look like.
I have a question. All of this pre-bond work costs a lot of money for them to do all of this work for us. So what do we pay them out of before we actually have the approval for the bond?
Triangle is only going to charge us $7,500, which is also less than some of the other companies we're asking for. The thing with both the construction management companies and the architectural firms, they don't get paid if the bond doesn't pass. Now, with that said, typically, if you go out for a bond and it doesn't pass, you try again some months later. So you stick with them, you try to get it passed. Let's say we try to get this passed in August and it fails, and we decide, well, the community's just not ready for it, or suddenly we have, 200 less kids coming to preschool, we don't need it anymore, then you would have to pay them, right? But otherwise, they get paid out of the bond dollars. So they don't get paid if the bond doesn't pass. That's true of both the construction management company and the architectural firm. But yeah, $7,500 from Triangle, that's a pretty good price for how much work they're gonna do. That's a good question.
That was a really good question.
Any further discussion?
Before we vote, could you clarify what the actual motion was? Because that's not typed out on
Yes.
the agenda.
The motion to approve contracting with Triangle. So we would have a contract for them to provide us with provide the pre-bonding process.
Yep.
So I would imagine they would have it in there that the $7,500 that would be paid only if it passes, I'm assuming.
That is correct. And I thought I printed it off. They sent it to me today, and I thought I printed it off. Probably left it on the printer. But I made sure it says right in there, it's fully understood that once the pre-bond, if the bond passes, then everything goes out for bid. So this is not an agreement in any way that locks us in as the construction manager.
As Josh said, we did not see a contract or anything like that, so
Yeah.
that's actually a good question.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion as presented, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say the same. Motion to approve Triangle as our pre-bond contractor carries as presented. I have a motion to adjourn at 6:38.
Make a
Motion to adjourn at 6:38. Support?
Motion from Liz, second from Anna. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say the same. Motion to adjourn carries. Thank you, everyone.